Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session of the European Food Forum on Understanding Food Processing. And welcome to this. My name is Maria Teresa Scardigli. I'm the Managing Director of Kellen in Brussels, and Kellen is a global firm providing services to trade associations at global level. I will be the facilitator today, and this event is hosted by three MEPs. Stefan Köhler, to my left, the chair of the European Food Forum, German and affiliated with the European People Party. He sits in the Environment, Envy and Agri Committee. On my right, I have Biljana Borzan, a member of the Steering Committee of the European Food Forum, lead MEP for the relations with EFSA of Croatian nationality and affiliated with the SND. And in principle, we should be having Mr. Dario Nardella, coordinator for the SND, and on the committee, the Agri Committee, lead MEP for the relations with FAO. To introduce this event, I just would like to mention that since centuries, food processing has helped make food safe, edible, and long-lasting. And today, it also drives innovation to boost sustainability, increase access and affordability, and offer more diverse options to match modern diet and lifestyles. This event will really focus on the role of food processing in modern food system, including the debate around ultra-processed food and its impact on three elements: health, the environment, and the agri-food value chain. And as we all know, in the European Union, we have the highest safety and quality standard for food, drink, and also related packaging, thanks to the work of the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA. Let me briefly introduce the European Food Forum. It's an independent, politically led, and non-partisan multi-stakeholders forum founded and governed by elected members of the European Parliament. It aims to promote open, multi-stakeholders dialogue and competitive, resilient, sustainable, and innovative food system. The European Food Forum does not take position on specific policy issues. And today we have really 1 hour, 15 minutes. It's quite sharp. We need to be tight, so we'll ask all the speakers really to stick to their time limit. We will take all the questions at the end. We have more or less, I would say, 10 minutes for the question. So please be very short. You have 30 seconds to ask your question. Say who you are. You can use the microphone and to whom the question is addressed. Just a quick reminder, this event is recorded and journalists are present, and actually there is a team, so there is a WebEx, and there are people also attending online. And without delay, I'm pleased to give the floor to the hosting MEP. First of all, Stefan Köhler. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this timely and much needed discussion. The topic of food processing is increasingly polarizing, Yet it is essential that we approach it with balance, science, and a shared commitment to public health, sustainability, and food security. Food has been processed over centuries to make it safe, edible, and durable. Today, food processing also drives innovation, reducing environmental impact, improving affordability, and meeting diverse dietary needs. It is a vital part of our modern food systems. At the same time, the debate around so-called ultra-processed foods has raised important and legitimate concerns, particularly regarding potential links to health issues such as obesity, diabetes, or cardiovascular diseases. These concerns deserve serious attention and scientific scrutiny. The European Commission's position remains unclear. In the vision for agriculture, there is only a single mention of ultra-processed food. It's important to understand what this will entail in terms of policy. Let's also not forget, Europe enjoys one of the highest levels of food safety in the world. Thanks in the large part of the work of EFSA, this is a strength we must build on, not undermine as we navigate this debate. This event, Understanding Food Processing, is held in the spirit of the European Food Forum to foster open, inclusively, and unbiased dialogue. By bringing together experts from across the value chain, civil society and academia, we can foster a balanced informed discussion and ensure that future EU policies support innovation, sustainability, and public trust. I will leave for a short moment the meeting, but anyways, I hope you enjoy the debate. I will come back later on, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, MEP Köhler, to this introduction, and we will see each other later. And I would like to give the floor to Biljana Borzan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a true privilege to give some opening remarks on this conference. I'm very glad to see a really vast number of you participants here. It shows that the issue is quite important and interesting. As the European Parliament Standing Rapporteur on Food Safety, I'm committed to fostering policies that safeguard both public health and consumer trust, while supporting innovation and sustainability in the agri-food sector. Food processing, in its essence, is not the problem. On the contrary, it has long helped us make food safer, longer lasting, and available all round year. Simple techniques like freezing, drying, fermenting play vital roles in preserving nutrients and preserving food waste. However, we found ourselves in the middle of a fierce debate about specific category, ultra-processed foods. This term, often misunderstood, refers not to mere act of processing, but to industrial formulations that bear little resemblance on whole foods. Products high in added sugars, fats, and additives, marked as convenient and affordable, are increasingly dominating European diets. Think of sugary soft drinks, processed meats full of preservatives, snack bars that never go stale, or ready meals with a long list of ingredients you wouldn't find in your kitchen. Research is overwhelming that connects regular consumption of ultra-processed foods with obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and even certain cancers. This is not a call to reject food technology, far from it. We need innovation to ensure healthy food is accessible, sustainable, and suited to evolving lifestyles. But we also need clear rules, transparent labeling, responsible marketing, and better consumer education and what's in their food. Today's discussion must help us draw the line, not between processed and unprocessed, but between what supports public health and what undermines it. Let's have an honest, science-based conversation about what role food processing should play in a healthy, fair, and sustainable European food system. Thank you very much. I look forward to this discussion.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Thanks a lot. And I would like to give the floor to Dario Nardella for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first thank you, the European Food Forum, Nardella, and all the other friends for organizing this event, and my colleagues, Stefan Köhler and Biljana Borzan, for being here today to address this very important topic that affects all of us. I also want to thank all of our guests who have joined us and who will help us explore and discuss this complex subject with many both technical and political issues and questions that we have to analyze and then to adapt. Your presence and expertise are truly valuable as we seek to better understand the role of processed food in our lives and how transparency and clear information can empower consumers to make informed choices. I believe that the world of processed foods is vast and varied, playing a significant role in our everyday lives. From technological innovative aspects to questions of health and safety, processed foods sparks debates that deserve to be approached with openness and dialogue. Openness and dialogue are fundamental conditions to reach and to share useful and effective achievements. Then I also would like to underline how important is the agro-food industrial sector in our continent. Due to the automotive crisis, the agro-food industrial sector is now the first in Europe in terms of number of employers and also the amount of revenues. So we should have a constant, systematic dialogue with this such important and crucial sector. Today, we aim to deepen our understanding of an issue that touches every one of us, shaping how we eat, how we live, and how we plan for a sustainable future. I recall the importance to distinct between processed food and ultra-processed food. This is an aspect that we must tackle. And I think processing itself is not an enemy and necessarily bad. It is one of humanity's oldest technologies, making food safer, more digestible, longer lasting. On the other hand, it's evident that ultra-processing redesigned food for convenience and profit. Another theme that I consider crucial when talking about ultra-processed food is the importance of labels and transparency. At a time when information is more accessible than ever, it is essential that consumers are fully aware of the choices they make. Labels have the power to educate and guide us, enabling informed and conscious food choices. That's why I think the digital QR code and digital labels will be very important in order to have our consumers and citizens on board. Then I'm aware of the NOVA classification system. There is another point that I would like to introduce, now widely used by researchers and public health authorities around the world. This method categorizes foods based on the extent and purpose of their processing, rather than their nutrient content alone. It highlights the differences between minimally processed foods and ultra-processed foods. And we know that this system now is under discussion. There are many different positions in that, so could be another point that we can face today. And to finish, I now hand the floor over the other guests and allow me to say that I will listen to everyone with great interest, because this kind of a topic must be addressed not only from the perspective of the food chain, but also from the perspectives of health and the environment, always keeping a close eye on children and adolescents. Thank you again and enjoy the panel.
Thank you, Dario, for your words. And now I would like really to have our first speaker to set the scene. Is from the European Commission. That's Antonella Rossetti. She's a member of the cabinet of the Commissioner for Agriculture and Food, Christoph Hansen. Antonella, I think you have around 7 to 10 minutes. Could you maybe share with us some more details on this study that was mentioned on the European Commission communication on vision for agriculture and food, on the impact of the consumption of ultra-processed food, and maybe also provide information related to timeline, who conducted, methodology, if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Let me start by thanking the European Food Forum and in particular the MEPs, Ms. Borzan, Mr. Köhler and Mr. Nardella for inviting me today to speak to this important initiative on ultra-processed food, but not only. This is a valuable occasion, of course, not just because we will bring the attention to this topic, but also because we bring together stakeholders, academia, and decision makers. So I'm here to speak, of course, on behalf of Commissioner Hansen, but also to listen, to exchange ideas, and to listen from you, and particularly from the academia, but also all the stakeholders. The future of food system has been addressed by the European Commission in the vision for agriculture and food that we published last February. It's a roadmap that sets a political initiative and priorities for the agri and food sector for the next 5 years. For the agriculture sector, we have already seen significant initiatives, as you know, that our commissioner and all the college already took. We had the simplification package on agriculture, the wine package, the livestock work stream. Soon you will see the generational renewal strategy, and of course the CIP that we are all waiting, I suppose, the result for the reform. On the food dimension of the vision, our starting point was the link between agriculture, the primary production, and the food we consume. So we started from that because this connection must be reinforced and revalued. We see in particular sometimes the young generations that they don't know how the food is processed or where the food is from. So we must celebrate and restore this link to also to underline the vital role of our farmers. And this is the main goal to have an attractive agriculture sector, and so value the work of farmers. But the food industry as well can play a crucial role. We want to work with the food industry. We don't want to put the one against the other. We are all together, and in the vision we launched the food dialogue. It will be a moment every year, a platform to bring together, as you are doing here, but from our side, from the Commission side, all the voices across the food system. So consumers, primary producers, industry, retailers, public authorities, and civil society. Because there's a need of science-based inclusive dialogue on food. The main issue is for us the food affordability, avoid the food poverty, work on value chain, but we are ready to work on nutrition, reformulation, healthy diet. We want to have this broader discussion. So food poverty, as I said, is for us, and food affordability is the main issue. But of course, here today, we want to discuss about the so-called ultra-processed food. I say so-called because we say this in the vision deliberately. Even the definition of the ultra-processed food is still under debate. So this is why the Commission, from one side, is aware that it's a growing concern, public concern about this ultra-processed food, and also some national initiative. For example, here in Belgium, there's a consumer's guidance to reduce the consumption of these foods. So sometimes this initiative leave the consumers, can create confusion. So we want to have a real debate, science-based. So the Commission, as you know, is preparing to launch a scientific study on ultra-processed food. This is, of course, evidence-based, science-based. Let me be clear, no policy options are currently on the table for the moment. Before we can even consider political action, we need clarity. That's why we intend to proceed with caution and scientific rigor. I understand that many of you would like to more concrete details today, but we are not ready to provide these details. Internal discussions are ongoing. There's different options, so we are still debating on how we will proceed. And on the timeline, I cannot be concrete, but don't expect something in the next 6 months, because we need time, first of all, to launch the study and then to conduct the study. So it will take time to do this study properly. So today I'm here, so even if I cannot provide you with all the information that you are looking for, but we have not decided yet. So I cannot tell you more, but I'm very interested to listen, to take your view, and to feed the food dialogue that we will organize. And also to include not only the stakeholders, but also the territory. So we will include in our debate on food dialogue also the territorial aspects. Because as in the vision we stated, food is emotional, is part of the culture, can be divisive and sensitive. So we really don't want to impose a top-down initiative, but use this method of dialogues. And Commissioner Hansen here in the Parliament said clearly during his hearing for his confirmation, we don't want to tell Europeans what they have to eat. So this stays as political guidance. This is not from the Commission a retreat from responsibility, but a recognition that food is linked to identity, ethics, and culture. So we can offer, as European policymakers, added value when it's necessary. We can complement national and local strategy. For example, new rules on sustainable public procurement that are awaited, encourage short food supply chain, review the EU schools scheme, strength promotion policy, geographical indication, fight against the food loss and waste. There's a lot to do that we can do at the European level. And so your initiative today, so this is why I accepted this invitation, reflects the spirit of the dialogue that the European Commission wants to have on these issues. So thank you once again, and I wish you a successful debate. I'm here to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonella, for this insightful information, although I understand you cannot share too much at this point in time. So maybe I propose we go to the first panel, which will really focus on the impact of food processing and of the debate on ultra-processed food on the agri-food value chain. And we have a speaker for almost each of the different players in the value chain. So we have, first of all, Laura Fernandez, who is there? Sorry. Laura Fernandez, Director General of UFIC, the European Food Information Council. Then we have Matteo, who is there? I'm sorry. Mantovani, a food policy advisor at the CNA Brussels. That's the Italian Confederation for Micro and Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise. Then you have Sara Lamonaca, who is over there, Director Consumers Information, Nutrition and Health at Food Drink Europe. And our fourth speaker is Marco Pierani. there, Director Public Affairs and Media Relations at Euroconsumers, which is a leading international consumers organization representing 5 countries and citizens and consumers over there. I propose that you keep to your 5-6 minutes maximum, your intervention, and I give the floor to you, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know how to pass the slides. Shall I ask? Okay, great. So first of all, thanks a lot for the invitation. I totally agree that we need more dialogue among different stakeholders on these kind of topics. So I'm going to take you briefly through the history of food processing from fire to factories, and to see when it started, why did it started, how has it evolved, and why is it important for today's food system. Let's, thank you. So it all began with the most basic need, which is the need to survive. We know that the prehistoric caveman used fire, and we have evidence of that around 1.5 million years ago, even some suggest earlier, to improve the digestibility and chewability of meat, but also reduce the pathogens that the meat contained. After that, we had different developments, and for example, drying and smoking were used by nomadic tribes and allow them to do long distances, let's say. But also we have evidence of natural fermentation of fruits, grains, and milk. Next slide. Then came, next slide, please. A big revolution, the Neolithic revolution, with the domestication of plants and animals and the agriculture, which allowed for a surplus, and that surplus could be stored and then processed further. So we had grains or cereals like wheat or barley that were milled, then transformed into flours that were fermented and then cooked in ancient ovens, creating bread, a first staple. A side product was beer, but then other fermented products ensue, and as you know, fermentation allows also for longer shelf life. So food started not being only nourishment, but it became economy. It could be traded. Next slide. Then if we fast forward, of course, that continued evolving to the next revolution, which was the industrial one at the end of the 18th century and beginning of 19th century and throughout the 19th century, we see very key innovations or discoveries, canning, tinning, refrigeration, pasteurization. And that changed completely the way that we produce food, because it really increased the shelf life and allowed for larger chains of production, and we saw the development of mass production. Next slide. That was also, increased by the fact that we had wars, not only in Europe, but beyond, and soldiers needed food that could have longer shelf lives in the front to feed the soldiers. But throughout the whole 20th century, we saw, again, lots of progress in the development of technology with cold chains, freeze drying, sterilization, aseptic packaging, domestic fridges. Additives were also booming in that period. And all that developed into global food logistics and transportation and global food chain. Next slide. And throughout all that, we see that food processing has enabled much safer food chain and more stable diets for billions of people. We have here some examples of how processing impacted safety and health. So from food preservation, and that has reduced spoilage and foodborne diseases. So for example, if we take the example of raw milk, just by pasteurizing and sterilizing raw milk, we reduce millions of deaths that were happening from tuberculosis, typhoid fever, and others. We have also fortification that has led to the decrease of deficiencies like goiter or rickets. Infant formula, the creation of infant formula has reduced infant mortality, particularly for those that could not breastfeed, or specialized nutrition. And nowadays, 40% of hospitalized patients use some sort of specialized nutrition. And then also this mass production allowed for a much increased availability and affordability of foods worldwide. Next slide. So where are we today? We have a food supply chain, and we have heard from our MEPs that is safer than ever before. But we also know that the food system is one of the major contributors to the environmental degradation, with greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, food waste, biodiversity loss, etc. So sustainability is an urgent necessity for our current food system. Also, how our food choices impact health has become increasingly a concern of our governments for the right reasons. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, food processing has lots of benefits, and it has served us well, but it can have unintended consequences, and we just need to keep adjusting in order to prevent those. Next slide. Okay, so what is the future, or what the future outlook? So food processing is just a technology. It's a tool that we can use, and we can use it well or badly. I hope that we will use it for the best, and through responsible innovation, we can support a safe, just, healthier, and more sustainable food system. Also, I would say that we need to keep researching and have more clarity on the mechanisms of actions by which processing or processed foods or foods impact health, in order to really understand what are the specific foods that are problematic for our health, and then convey messages, and that is very important, and it has also been mentioned, that we need evidence-based communication. The digital environment has been mentioned. If you look at the World Economic Forum, in its risk report in 2024, misinformation and disinformation was the biggest challenge or threat to humanity. Okay, the one that pertains to food is a subset of that, but it's an important one. So evidence-based communication to support better consumer food choices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura, for this insight. Very interesting to see, actually, the entire history of the processing until the end. I wanted to welcome, I think, MEP Kassar has joined us. So thank you very much for being here with us today. And I would like to give the floor, it's over there, sorry. I would like to give the floor to you, Matteo, for your presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. So thanks to the MEPs, and thanks to all the European Food Forum staff. My name is Matteo Mantovani, and I work here in Brussels for CNA. We are the Italian National Confederation of Craft and SMEs. Next slide, please. So this is just a bit of numbers. We represent more than 600,000 micro SMEs in Italy, operating in all the economic sectors. For agri-food, through our union, CNA Agroalimentare, we represent almost 60,000 enterprises that operate through the entire value chain. So from the primary production to the food processing and transformation phase until the catering and food services. Next slide. So we saw that food processing is not new. It's part of our history, but what does it mean for micro and small enterprises in the sector? This means enhancing raw materials, so starting from the local qualities, excellences, and transform into a product with a high added value, promoting local identity and traditions, and preserving the artisanal know-how of food. Of course, when we talk about processed foods and ultra processed foods, we have to distinguish. They are not always the same. There are some products that are treated, that serve specific health and dietary purposes. For example, all the products gluten-free or the allergen-free, the products with low salt and sugar, and so on. And the majority of our micro and small enterprises produce this kind of foods. Next slide. Here, I will go fast. For this slide, I wanted to bring you two examples of our enterprises. The first one is an oil producer, and the second one is a bakery specialized in gluten-free products. But I think the slide will be shared, so you can go deeper in this information. Next slide. So I think the challenge of it works. Okay, I think the challenge of this event can be summarized in this message. We are not here to criminalize specific production models, but we have to distinguish them based on their intent, so their scope and their impacts on health, on environment, and from our perspective on the market. Next slide. So we find out four main impacts for micro and small enterprises. The first one is the consumer distrust. We know that this debate is ongoing since a long time, and there is the risk that the perception of consumers can be distorted and let's say create this stigma that all food processing is bad. So micro and small enterprises have to work hard to regain the consumer trust by distinguishing themselves and highlighting the quality of their products. And this is not always easy for the lack of resources they have, and in particular for the communication resources. The second impact that is linked with the third one, actually, it's the risk for the supply chain marginalization. When we talk about ultra processed food, we are talking about a production model that has a long value chain, global and centralized. Micro and small enterprises operate in a short chain, very local, and putting down sustainable practices. So the expansion of ultra processed food risk to reduce the demand for fresh and locally raw materials and products, and this is will be is a difficulty even for the farmers, but also for the enterprises in the middle of the chain. Next slide. As I said, the third impact is linked to the second one, and it's about competition. Ultra processed food can produce faster and with a lower price than micro and small enterprises. So there is a risk for our enterprises and our companies to be pushed out from the market, and this is particularly true for the large-scale retail distribution. The fourth impact, and I think the colleague from Food Europe will back on this, since we are talking about regulation and legislation. As we see in Europe, we have a strong legislation on food, but it's not always, let's say, SME oriented. For example, if we take the legislation on additives, on nutrition or labeling, they seem to us more tailored for an industrial model than for our reality. And linked to this, there is the problem of innovation. Innovation often is not accessible for the micro and small enterprises. Next slide. Another aspect I would like to bring to you is the discussion and the relationship with food waste. Ultra-processed food sometimes are considered as a solution for food waste because of their long shelf life and the stability of the distribution. But we think there are three main points that have to be highlighted. First, how these products are packaged. Sometimes, well, the majority of the cases, we find multi-packs with excessive quantities that can, let's say, encourage or bring to a higher level of food waste. There is the waste produced at industrial level during the production. There are a lot of scraps or unsold ingredients that accumulate the waste, and a waste also in nutrition value. So we start from specific raw materials with its nutritional elements, and we arrive to a product that lost something. Next slide, since I have 1 minute left, right? Okay. A recommendation, or I can back on this later. Okay, a recommendation. So our recommendation, 6 recommendations. The first one is indeed try to change the narrative in order to recognize the value of artisanal production. The second one, invest and promote local and regional products. The third one, increase the access to innovation for micro and small enterprises, and this is particularly important in view of the next MFF that will be presented in the coming weeks. Next slide. The fourth one, ensure and support the access to markets for artisanal products. The fifth, invest in education and transparency. This is particularly important. We need information campaigns, education campaigns since the early childhood. And the sixth one, and this is a final recommendation, involve micro and small, medium-sized enterprises in the dialogue, and especially for the Commission in the food dialogue that will be set up. Include all the stakeholders and, of course, in particular, us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matteo. And I would like to give the floor to Sarah. Please keep it to your 5 minutes because I think we are already a little bit on delay.
Okay, thank you. I will check my clock. So thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation to the European Food Forum and to the hosting MEPs. A lot has been said, a lot of words there have triggered some reflections. First of all, I would like to start from reiterating that the food and drink industry acknowledges that there is a public health crisis. There are public health issues that needs to be addressed. There is a global rise in obesity and non-communicable diseases. And we understand that these issues are very complex. And of course, diets, they also play a role in this. And this is why our members, they have made significant strides over the past 2 decades and more in reformulating products, in innovating. So to reduce the sugar, salt, fat content, but also to optimize the content by adding micronutrients, so through fortification, this has been mentioned as well, and also increasing whole grain fruit vegetable content. Now, going to the core of today's discussion, if we look at the UPF classification, how helpful is this concept if we want to tackle exactly these public health challenges that we are facing? Because over the last decade, researchers, they have used the UPF classification and the concept to conduct studies to look into the association between consumption of so-called ultra-processed foods and the health impact and several diseases. But within the academic community, there is still considerable debate about the basis of these studies, so the UPF classification itself and also how to interpret these studies. And I'm not going to go into that. We have Professor Fogliano and Professor Touvier who will give, I'm sure, very insightful information over the academic, the scientific debate. But I just also want to mention that over the past 2 years, several public health bodies, authorities in Europe, they have, and I'm talking about the UK, also the Nordic countries, and most recently at the very beginning of the year, there was an opinion from the ANSES, from the French agency, and they have chosen, they have basically came to the conclusion that the concept of ultra-processed food is not a good basis for public health policy or for issuing dietary guidelines for the population. And this is due to the fact that this concept is still like there is a lack of strong evidence and also there is lack of scientific consensus. This has been mentioned several times. The debate is still ongoing. Now, if we were to think about policy measures adopted on the basis or dietary recommendations adopted on the basis of the UPF classification or any other classification that is based on the level of processing, we also have to take into account what are the consequences that this might entail? Because many nutrition, the classification is confusing for the consumer. Often is also confusing for the experts. So many nutritious food, they will fall under the UPF classification. So dietary guidelines that point to reduction or let's say sort of total discouragement of consumption of foods like wholemeal bread that might fall under the UPF classification. There are several other products, fortified products. These might have unintended consequence and be counterproductive if we look at the same public health objectives that we are trying to tackle. Also, very importantly, innovation, this has also been mentioned several times, would be undermined because there are basically consumers, they might be prompted to reject vital innovations in food and drink that do not only help to consumers to have more balanced, healthier diets, but also that help like achieve the sustainability objectives that we are also trying to reach. And in this regard, the example is the example of food spoilage, and so the fact that processing being certain methods of processing or the composition, so the use of conservatives extends the shelf life, and this helps with issues like food waste. Also, it's very important, and this should not be neglected, that there might be also an impact on farming, on the farmers, because at the end in Europe, the majority of the agricultural products, and we're talking about figures around 70%, they go into processing. So this aspect of impact on farmers should not be neglected. And then last but not least, also the impact on traditional, iconic European products that are covered by geographical indications. Often they could be classified as ultra-processed foods, and so also this is something that we have to consider if we use this classification. So to conclude, and going back also to the remark that was made at the very beginning, and I think it's very telling. We are here to draw the line between what supports public health and what does not support public health. It's not really about processed versus unprocessed. And if we think about, okay, what does support public health? What does science tells us today? Well-established nutrition science right now on the available evidence tells us that reducing one's intake of foods that are relatively high in fat, sugar, and salt, and of course also combined with a healthy lifestyle, is the most effective way to solution basically to changing poor dietary health outcomes. And this is for these reasons, as I mentioned at the beginning, that the role and what our members and the food and drink industry is doing is working towards that. So it's contributing to that by helping consumers to have healthier diets, by reducing certain nutrients and also enhancing the composition via micronutrient fortification or adding fiber, whole grain, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Marco, please go ahead. Really 5 minutes, because I know that Professor Touvier, who is actually has just joined, has until 45. So
I'll try to be very quick. I want to just thank for the invitation and European Food Forum. Luisella, thank you very much. I want to take the chance also to proudly say that finally we are a member of European Food Forum. So that's something that we took a bit of a time, but let's be proud of it. Thanks to the member of European Parliament that are contributing, and to MEP Nardella present here. I thank also for the opportunity to deepen my expertise on such a fast evolving topic, because as a humble lawyer who has served for over 20 years navigating hot consumer issues in corporate affairs, I have learned that in situations like this today, the best defense is honesty and maybe just a bit of humor. So I confess I'm not at all a food scientist, but just someone trying to keep up while the definition of what's good for you changes faster than my lunch habit. So that said, the topic of ultra-processed food is controversial enough to attract the seriously twisted minds of corporate affairs professionals like me, always on the lookout of complexity, controversy, and above all, in my specific case, the best approach for consumers' interest and respect for their individual choices. So it has been said already before, but I will be quick on this. Processed food is not the same as ultra-processed food, so I will not go too much on this because it has been repeated more than once. Processing is how we get safe milk, frozen vegetable, and shelf-stable tomato sauce. So it has served consumer for decades. Let's not delve in that. But ultra-processed food, UPF go a step further. These are often industrial formulation with ingredients you wouldn't find in your kitchen, and additive, colorings, emulsifier, and yet there are concerns, particularly when these products dominate diets and crowd out more nutrition options. We hear a lot about the negative impacts on UPFs, especially in terms of health, but what do average consumers really think? Average consumers are not at all extremist. They are pragmatic. They want food that is safe, affordable, tasty, healthy, and increasingly sustainable. And they also value convenience. especially in real-life contents where time, cost, and access matter. So we do welcome the upcoming European Commission study on UPF. Antonella, this is really welcome. Hopefully it will help foster a more structured and science-based debate on the real risk, which certainly exists for a part, but without lumping everything together. Because if we let the conversation become too polarized, we risk two things: confusing consumer with oversimplified or conflicting advice, undermining, second, which is even more dangerous, undermining innovation, including innovation that could be essential for the future of our food system, and we do need it. Which brings me very quickly on a topic that we really studied, which is cultivated meat. Technically, cultivated meat could be labeled as ultra-processed food, and yet it could offer solution to many challenges. Reducing emission, antibiotic use, and animal suffering while maintaining protein production. Should we reject it just because it doesn't fit a nostalgic vision or natural? We at Euroconsumer don't think so. The answer is not just scientific approval, it's trust, transparency, and real value. Consumers need clear, honest information about these products, how they are made, what benefit they bring to them, to the society, and to the planet. And that means smart regulation, not overreaction. It means informed choice and not alarmism. Let me be clear, some UPF are clearly problematic. Diets overloaded with sugar, salt, and ultra-processed snacks pose a real public health risk, but context matter. I can eat a fast food hamburger from time to time, which yes, probably qualify as UPF, or in my specific case, it's more about drinking grappa after a conversational dinner or a good brandy, but still be healthy. It's part of an overall balanced diet, which is what it's important. It's not demonizing individual foods. It's about helping people build better dietary habits over time. I'm going to finish. As a consumer organization, our role is to cut through the noise, to inform, not to preach, to debunk false claims, whether they come from overzealous campaigns or self-servicing industry narrative. In short, we stand for common sense, scientific grounds, and consumer empowerment. And we should also remain fully aware that food is first and foremost a source of pleasure. It is part of our culture, and it should increasingly be part to well-being. I have finished. So let's approach this debate with the complexity it deserves and with the shared goal of ensuring that innovation and consumer protection work hand in hand, not against each other. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the entire panel for their thoughts, observation, recommendation, and quickly mention that we can stay 15 minutes more until 2 o'clock, so there will be a little bit more of debate. I would open the second panel with the professor. That's really a key one. Focus is on the relationship between the food processing and the debate on ultra-processed food, on health and the environment. And I would like to introduce Professor Mathilde Touvier first, because I know that she really has to leave at 1:45, so she only has 15 minutes. And I would introduce Professor Fogliano afterwards. So Matilde, you are the head of the Nutritional Epidemiology Research Team, EREN, at Sorbonne Paris Nord in France. And you are also the principal investigator of the Nutrinet Santé cohort. You are joining us, and I would like to give you the floor. Apologies if the introduction was really short, but I'm sure that everybody will love your presentation. Therefore, I give you a little bit more time for presenting. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Could you hear me well? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
we do.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so I heard already a lot in the previous presentation, so I will go very fast on the beginning. You know that in the nutrition science, so science studying the impact of nutrition on health, for years we were mostly focused on the nutritional aspect, so salt, sugar, dietary fibers, vitamins, minerals, and their impact on health and chronic disease risk. And in fact, the focus on the way foods are processed, formulated, is really a more recent topic, and science is really recent and very dynamic in this research area. And in fact, you already mentioned, I think, the NOVA classification. This field of research really advanced a lot with this classification proposed by Carlos Monteiro and colleagues from Brazil at the end of the year 2000s. So it's the important part. I know that you're already well aware of this classification, is that indeed it allows us to identify a group of foods called ultra-processed food, which are not just processed. When you already, it was mentioned, it's very important not to make the amalgam, to make it ambiguous. All industrial food are not ultra-processed. You have industrial food that are totally in fact, the same formulation as if we were cooking it at home, and also with a good nutritional profile. So these are really, this is important point to underline here. But when we talk here about ultra-processed, we are talking about food that undergone very deep process of very deep transformations in terms of, for instance, hydrogenation, extruding, pre-processing by frying. So many physical, chemical, or biological processes. This is the transformation part. And or these are foods that are formulated using ingredients that are typically industrial ingredients that we don't find in our domestic kitchen, as was said previously, such as, for instance, additives, but not additives that are here to guarantee, for instance, the security of the products in terms of microbiological safety, which is a very important point in terms of processing. But here, these are cosmetic additives to make the product more tasty, with a better shape, with a lower cost of production, and so on. So this can be food colors, emulsifiers, or artificial sweeteners, for instance, or other ingredients such as hydrogenated oils, flavoring agents, and so on. And when here are a bunch of examples, also very important here is to see that there are some foods that also have a poor nutritional profile, such as some ultra-processed chocolate bars or sodas, for instance, which are also rich in sugar or maybe for some salt and saturated fat and so on. But also we find in this ultra-processed food group some foods that have a good nutritional profiles in terms of fat, sugar, and salt. And it can be, for instance, flavored yogurt or cereal crisp bread. So this is important here to underline the fact that these are two complementary dimensions, and it's not just about the salt, sugar, and fat content. Here are a few examples. You see here, for instance, the raw fruit, which will be Nova 1, not processed, and an typical ultra-processed food for children, which looks like a banana with the shape, the taste, maybe the flavor too, but which doesn't have any gram of banana in it, which is typical Nova 4 ultra-processed food. This paper, I know that you already had debates about the classification, is the most recent publication detailing the classification, Nova classification, and explaining all the tricky examples, the way it has been employed and used in epidemiological studies, the way uncertainties were treated, the validation of this classification versus blood biomarkers or urinary biomarkers of, for instance, trans fat and other markers. And so this is an important paper to consider within this debate about this classification. So NOVA classification has been widely applied, first here to studies within representative samples in different countries, showing that the proportion of energy brought by ultra-processed food ranged between 10–15% in some countries, such as Romania, Colombia, Hungary, and reaches nearly 60% of caloric intake in countries such as the US or the UK. When we started to work with my lab on the topic, it was in 2018, there was no previous study investigating the association between ultra-processed food intake and the risk of developing cancer, cardiovascular diseases, or type 2 diabetes, for instance. And so we tried to work on this topic with the Nutrinet Santé cohort, which is a cohort study which gathers today more than 180,000 people in France, followed since 2009, and with a very high level of detail regarding their dietary intake. So we collect information about the type of food, but also the commercial brand, and with the repeated data, not only at baseline, but repeatedly during the follow-up. So very precise data, and of course, it's a cohort. We follow participants in time. Some of them develop a cancer, a cardiovascular disease, or another disease, and other not. And we are going to compare their risk of developing these diseases compared to their level of exposure to ultra-processed food and other markers of ultra-processed food. This is just one field of investigation within this cohort. So the first publication in terms of etiological research was about cancer, published in 2018, and we observed that for a 10-point increase in the percentage of ultra-processed food in the diet. Here it's about the weight of food brought by ultra-processed food. Participants had an about 10 to 11% higher risk of developing cancer, and it was significant for breast cancer. We have published that, it was a few years ago. We had a limited statistical power for our some specific locations, for instance, colorectal cancer, but we haven't published the update yet, but the results are now significant for colorectal cancer. We should publish that in the following years. We also published a study showing association with an increased cardiovascular disease risk. I won't go through all the details, but these are all the sensitivity analysis and the different models that we ran, showing the very high consistency in the results for overall cardiovascular disease, but also specifically coronary heart diseases, such as myocardial infarction, or cerebrovascular diseases, such as stroke. We also observed association between ultra-processed food exposure and a higher risk of premature mortality and a higher risk of depressive symptoms. So here it's a particular design where we measure with validated scales depressive symptoms. Of course, with all these studies, we start with participants without the disease. They are all healthy at baseline, and some of them develop the symptoms and others don't. And we see here that they were significantly higher. There were more people developing depressive symptoms in the people exposed to ultra-processed food. Here you can see this is another way to present the results. We can see the association with type 2 diabetes with a quasi-linear association. The more the exposure of ultra-processed food is important, the higher is the risk of developing type 2 diabetes during follow-up. And you see here the association between ultra-processed food exposure and the risk of becoming overweight during follow-up or becoming in situation of obesity among participants who at baseline were not obese or overweight. And you see here the trajectory of weight gain of participants. So with age, everybody tends on average to gain weight. But you see that the weight gain was sharper here in the group of people more exposed to ultra-processed foods. So we did a lot of sensitivity analysis. They were really challenged because we published in very demanding journals, and so we really tested the robustness of these models. Of course, all these analyses are adjusted for the nutritional quality of the diet in terms of energy intake, salt, sugar, fiber intake, intakes of fruits and vegetables, and so on. And so the important point here is that these associations remain stable despite these adjustments, which led us to conclude that, in average, ultra-processed food have a poorer nutritional profiles, which probably contributes to explain their impact on health, but many other factors probably still play a role, because when we account for these nutritional profile, the associations are still robust. Since these results, there are today more than 80 prospective cohort studies showing consistent results about exposure to ultra-processed food and increased risk of adverse health outcomes. This is an umbrella review from Melissa Lane and colleagues, showing the density of evidence that we have currently about these relationships, and showing that for the moment, the greatest evidence is obtained regarding cardiometabolic outcomes and also mental disorders and mortality outcomes. For some other outcomes, such as cancer, for instance, we observed that in Nutrinet Santé, in the EPIC cohort 2 and in the UK Biobank, but still there are less studies, and so the level of evidence is lower for cancer for the moment compared to these outcomes for which we have a greater weight of evidence.
And Professor Touvier, I'm sorry, could you just maybe conclude and maybe give you another minute? I'm sorry, but otherwise we will not have the time to do everything. Thank you.
Okay, so just to mention that there are also short-term randomized control trials showing consistent results and giving us insights about the mechanisms underlying these relationships. And there are many tracks showing that there are a causal association. It's not just associations, and that, for instance, the changing in the food matrix, the food additives, or the contacts from packagings or created during the processes may probably also play a role. And this is what we also had as evidence in Nutrinet Santé, where we published several work on nitrites, artificial sweeteners, emulsifiers, and also mixtures of additives, which are markers of this ultra-processed food, and association with many chronic disease risk. We are working now on food contaminants from packaging. And in terms of consumer, it's very important to have this free division. The nutritional part is so important, and it's not because we talk about ultra-processed food today that we have to forget the impact of excess sugar, salt, and so on. Still very important, and this is why Nutri-Score was created and give information to European citizens in seven countries already about this profile. And now it's time to move on and add the ultra-processed food dimension and other dimensions of contaminations, of course. And we already have enough information and proof to take action, even if research needs to be going on to really understand deeply mechanisms involved, but still we have enough to do things in terms of public health. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a big round of applause for you. Thank you so much. I hope you can stay. I don't know yet if you can stay for another few minutes. First of all, I would like to thank Biljana Borzan for joining us today. Unfortunately, she is leaving because we are running a little bit late, but thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't count for this 15 minutes extension, so I have other obligations, but let me just say that food and ultra-processed food is, I would say, the most important culprit for our good or bad health. So I hope for the next meeting of this kind that the Commission will have some good news for us with some kind of legislation which will protect our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. And now I would like to introduce Professor Vincenzo Fogliano. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining. You are Professor of Food Quality and Design Group at the Wageningen University in the Netherlands, and you are President of EFOST and R&D Director of Arterra Bioscience. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I want to say we have a problem about the quality of industrial food. True. What you hear about NOVA classification and ultra-processed food is not the right answer. These classifications do not add anything to what we already know. is actually a distraction because we have already all the information, and the information are related to the nutritional quality of food and related to the safety of the additives and whatever is in our product that is very well controlled by EFSA. And if there is any problem there, there is a lot of mechanisms that can ensure that this is solved. So I do not have time, so I have only 7 minutes. So I want to show you how this classification can only create many more problems than provide any solution. And so for doing this, I just forget to be a professor and a scientist. I just want to guide you and you guide me into a real life experience. Let's go to the supermarket. I hope you go to the supermarket okay, can I have the first slides? Okay, you have this product, ham, traditional also, can be also, is this ultra-processed food or not? This is, because if you go and slice in front of you and put in a paper, it's not ultra-processed. But if you put in a packaging and is conserved under modified atmosphere, become ultra-processed. So you can understand already that is not the nutritional quality of the ham, is the same ham. But if it is prepared in an industrially processed way, become ultra-processed food. Can I have the second one? Okay, this is a dried apricots, ultra-processed or not? What do you think? Is dried under the sun, blah, blah, blah? No, because there is an additives. There is a metabisulfite here, the same in the white wine, by the way. Even the best white wine have a metabisulfite in it, okay? So this is a good product, at the end is fruit, but ultra-processed food, so stay away from it. Next one. All the probiotic, prebiotic, all these short, okay, that's ultra-processed food. And if your breath is smell, don't take a Tic Tac because it's ultra-processed food, okay? So it's very difficult. So, and believe me, this is a kind of a fun story, but this is the same things that my previous speaker tried to explain. They do all this classification. Who does this? Nutritionists, and they face this type of challenge. Is ultra-processed or not? And then I have to correlate. And this is impossible to do. And I mean, this is just a representation of scientific studies that proved that this classification is not applicable. If you do this classification, I do, another person do, we come with different classification because the NOVA classification is not science, is an idea, is philosophical, and is not something that we can base science. So first things is not applicable. Second things, we have something, if I have the next slides, we have something, as we mentioned before, the bars. Maybe you mentioned the bars? Okay, are the bars bad or not? Depends on the bars. And we have the Nutri-Score. The Nutri-Score, I don't want to make now a battle on the front of pack, but it's based on nutritional characteristics. So you see these bars, I get a picture. There are Nutri-Score A, B, C, D, E. How we can say that all the bars are not the same? I mean, if you have a bar that is rich in nuts and fibers and protein, I mean, it's a good nutritional quality. If it is just chocolate and sugar, it's a bad nutritional quality. So it's not that all the bars are the same. So, and then we end up in this nice nightmare that we have seen before for my previous, so if I have the next slides, I have on the slide. So you have to the consumer something that say is A, so it's good, but it's ultra-processed, so it's black. What I have to do, what I can do in this confrontation? I think it's crazy that we give complete contradiction information, but the Nutri-Score is based on nutrition, how much fat, how much protein, how much fiber is in the product. The other one is based on ideology, not on science. Next one has been mentioned already. I mean, if I have a mom and I don't have breastfeeding, I want to have. I cannot avoid, and I don't want to feel guilty because I use infant formula, okay? So I can, and if I'm celiac, I can enjoy a pasta with the gluten-free, the nice technology. So let's use it. Why not? So, and sorry, it's not if it is a small company or a big company. It's the same process. Gluten-free is gluten-free. So let's stay on the fact. Next one, Veggie transition, we want to have more vegetables, want to eat less meat or not? Sorry, if you want to eat less meat and you go for alternatives, that's technology, that's ultra-processed food, all the beverages milk, all the alternative burgers are ultra-processed, but we need them. So please don't talk about generic ultra-processing. Last one, and then I finish. I have had this one. I bring this because I have to travel. So this you can eat. Why not? Why have to have a sandwich? I can just put this in the microwave and eat a salad. You all do this. Don't feel guilty. It's ultra processed, but it's good. It's good for your nutritional score. So this classification is a nonsense. I hope that I made myself clear. So chasing the processing, the concept, and is not minimally processing, ultra processing. Come on. Talk of things that you know. There is really, do I talk about astronomy? No, I don't talk about astronomy. There is no different degree of processing that can be introduced in a classification. So either is processed or not, is good. Look at the fundamental things and don't chasing the ghost. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Vincenzo, for this presentation. Thank you a lot. I think that there might be one or two questions only. I don't know. I'm looking at Luisella. There are 4 minutes. I know that MEP Nardella really has to go, and I think we need to close. There might be 1 or 2 questions. Please don't be shy. If there is 1 or 2 questions, yes, please. Just say your name and to whom the question addressed.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Matthijs. I represent Oatly, an oat-based dairy manufacturer. So I have a question directed to Ms. Rossetti. Is there any more information you can share about the food dialogue, like anticipated dates, agenda, collaborating partners, stuff like that?
Not yet, sorry. Sorry to be here and not give what you want, but we are discussing. We are trying to work with the local authorities, with regions. This is what I can tell you, but still we are working on this. We have also the CAP now that we are working on, so it's a kind of a priority. But of course, we will come very shortly with some information. Sorry for that.
Thank you very much for the answer. Anyone else? Just, I think I have time for 1 more. Yeah, please go ahead.
Leonard Engels. The Commission Scientific Advice Mechanism has published scientific opinions on sustainable food system in 2020 and sustainable and healthy diets in 23. And these are very solid evidence reviews that have been written by tens of scientists and reviewed by tens of scientists. So it's not just opinions of individual academics. How are these very inclusive evidence reviews being considered in the discussion in Parliament, for example?
Or anyone able to answer the question? Any one of you that want to take it? It wasn't very clear. It was more a statement, but yeah.
No, sorry. So we have these evidence gathered. It's not only on ultra-processed food, but it's broader than that. But this is already, let's say, digested for policymakers. So it's not written in a scientific language. But how does this impact discussion of policymakers, of people in Parliament, parliamentarians? Is it being considered at all?
You can answer that, no?
Are there other questions or comments? Okay, so thank you. First of all, thank you to everybody, to the speakers, and Luisella, and also people who are here. So, as Antonella said, we have to work together in order to clarify the real points, the real questions. And European Parliament now will be committed as European Commission in the new CAP, and I think many of those questions should be treated in the new CAP. Because when we talk about agriculture, we have to face food security, food safety, and the new CAP is the box which inside we have to put all those aspects that are very integrated. I believe in the dialogue between politicians, so legislators, European Union, scientists, producers is fundamental. And another achievement I think important for all of us is to have what is real important in order to understand if we have good food or bad food, safe food or not safe food. This is the real difference. We can have industrial food and artisan food, but the real difference is between good industrial food and bad industrial food, good artisan food and bad artisan food. So maybe we need a different criteria on which we have to evaluate the nutritional and healthy and all the criteria. And with this kind of criteria, with this kind of approach, logic approach, I think we can have a good model, because at the end of the story, our goal is to have healthy and safe food, is to enhance our European agricultural and food system. These values, this approach, we already can see in New Vision. As Antonella Rossetti said, New Vision is a good base for a correct agro-food industrial approach, and also about what Professor said in the last speech about a correct point of view on our food system. So thank you very much, because this exchange of opinions has been very useful. I think, Luisella, we have to continue on this path, because we have in front of us a lot of meeting and work to do to achieve a correct system for our citizens and for our consumers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MEP Nardella. I would like a round of applause for all our speakers today. Thank you so much. It was very interesting. And then I think the speaker would stay there if you still want to speak to them. If you want to join the European Food Forum, thank you so much for this dialogue with all the different stakeholders over here. Please approach Luisella and Rezi over there if you want to join. There are additional events in September by the European Food Forum, so be in touch with her. And with that, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much also for those in the call. Thank you.